took only 9 seconds for United Flight 585 to fall from the sky. No engine failure, no explosion, no pilot error. One moment, the Boeing 737 was a masterpiece of engineering, a symbol of safety and reliability. The next, it was a tomb. But the real horror wasn't the crash itself. It was the fact that for the next 10 years, Boeing and the National Transportation Safety Board would have no idea why. A ghost was in the cockpit of the world's most popular aircraft, and it was just getting started. Today, we reconstruct the complete decade-long investigation of the Boeing 737's most terrifying flaw, an unseen force that turned the rudder against its own pilots. This is the mystery of the unseen killer. March 3rd, 1991, Colorado Springs. United Flight 585 is on its final approach to runway 35. The weather is windy, a common occurrence near the Rocky Mountains, but for Captain Harold Green and First Officer Patricia Eidson, this should have been a routine landing. They were flying one of the most trusted machines ever built, at less than 1,000 feet above the ground. While traveling at nearly 190 miles per hour, the aircraft suddenly and violently snapped to the right. The cockpit voice recorder captured a terrifying, brief struggle. The pilot slammed the left rudder pedal with enough force to bend the mechanical linkages, but the plane refused to listen. It rolled onto its back and slammed into Wide Field Park. Everyone on board was killed instantly. When investigators arrived at the scene, they were met with a baffling puzzle. Usually, a crash this violent has a clear signature. An engine explosion leaves shrapnel, a mid-air collision leaves 2 debris fields. But as they sifted through the dirt of Wide Field Park, they found nothing.
Even when the first rescue crews arrived at the crash site, nothing was left to save.
The engines were producing power until the moment of impact. The flight controls were still connected. The weather, while gusty, was not severe enough to flip a 70-ton jet. For the first time in modern aviation history, the NTSB was forced to release a final report with the most frustrating words in the industry: inconclusive. The 737 was allowed to keep flying, carrying millions of passengers every day, while a hidden assassin remained tucked away inside its tail. The ghost waited 3 years to strike again. September 8, 1994, U.S. Air Flight 427 was gliding through clear, sunset skies toward Pittsburgh. It was a beautiful evening, the kind of flight pilots enjoy. The cockpit recordings show the crew were relaxed, joking about the view in their schedules. Then, a sudden metallic thud echoed through the airframe. The aircraft jerked. Within seconds, the plane was in a 280-mile-per-hour vertical dive. 132 people had no time to pray. The crash was so violent that the site was unrecognizable. This second crash changed everything. It was a carbon copy of the Colorado tragedy. 2 identical planes, 2 identical maneuvers, 2 identical disasters. The aviation world was now in a state of panic. If the world's most popular plane could simply fall out of the sky without warning, no one was safe. The investigation became one of the most expensive and high-stakes battles in the history of the NTSB. Boeing, a multi-billion-dollar giant, fought to protect its crown jewel. They suggested that the pilots had panicked and stepped on the wrong pedal, a phenomenon known as pilot foot reversal. But the NTSB investigators were looking at a small, suitcase-sized component located in the tail, known as the Power Control Unit, or PCU. To understand the mystery, you have to understand the PCU. This device is the heart of the 737's rudder system. Unlike larger planes that have multiple redundant rudders, the 737 relies on a single panel. That panel is moved by a dual servo valve inside the PCU. For years, Boeing insisted this valve was dual redundant and could not fail. Investigators spent thousands of hours trying to make this valve jam in the lab. They ran it through millions of cycles. It worked perfectly every time. Boeing seemed to be winning the argument. They claimed the hardware was perfect and the fault lay with the dead pilots. But the NTSB refused to give up. They suspected that the valve behaved differently in the extreme conditions of flight. They conducted what is now famously known as the cold soak test. They took a PCU and froze it to -40 degrees, simulating the freezing temperatures of high altitude. Then, they injected hot pressurized hydraulic fluid into the freezing valve. They watched in absolute horror as the metal did something no one expected. The inner and outer slides of the valve expanded at different rates because of the temperature shock. The valve didn't just jam, it moved into a position that reversed the flow of hydraulic fluid. This was the smoking gun. It meant that if a pilot stepped on the left pedal to correct a roll, the rudder would move hard to the right. The more the pilot fought to save the plane, the more they ensured its destruction. The pilots of Flight 585 and Flight 427 weren't incompetent. They were victims of a machine that had been programmed to lie to them. Following this discovery, every Boeing 737 in the world was ordered to undergo a massive hardware overhaul. The unseen killer was finally identified and supposedly eliminated. But as the decades passed, new ghosts began to haunt the 737 fleet. In March 2022, a China Eastern Airlines Boeing 737-800 was cruising at 29,000 feet over the mountains of Guangxi. Without warning, the plane entered a near-vertical dive, dropping 20,000 feet in just over a minute. It was a terrifying echo of the 90s. While modern 737s have completely different rudder designs that prevent the old reversal issue, the profile of the China Eastern crash was hauntingly familiar. The investigation into Flight 5735 has been shrouded in secrecy, but the data retrieved so far points to a chilling conclusion. The dive was so steep and so sustained that it suggests a deliberate input, either by a malfunctioning computer or a human hand. In 2026, as we look back on the history of this aircraft, we realize that the 737's greatest strength, its longevity, is also its greatest challenge. It is an airframe that has been modified, updated, and pushed to its limits for over 50 years. From the mechanical rudder reversals of the 1990s to the software-driven tragedies of the 737 MAX and the unexplained dives of the next-generation fleet, the story of the 737 is a journey through the evolution of aviation risk. It reminds us that every time we think we have mastered the sky finds a new way to humble us. Aviation safety is not a destination, it is a relentless, never-ending hunt for the truth. The Boeing 737 remains the workhorse of the global economy. Thousands are in the air at this very moment. It is a testament to human engineering, but its history is written in the blood of those who flew during its darkest hours. We fly safely today because investigators refused to take inconclusive for an answer. They hunted a ghost across a decade of tragedy until they finally caught it. But as we move deeper into the age of automation and AI-driven flight, the mystery of the unseen force serves as a permanent warning. We must always remain vigilant. If you found this deep dive into the hidden history of aviation fascinating, please support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. We have more long-form investigations coming your way, including a look at the secrets hidden within the world's most guarded black boxes. What is your theory on the modern 737 dives? Do you believe the machine is to blame, or is there a human element we aren't being told about? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and stay curious.